Welcome to From the Hat, a PONDcast, the program where every episode is a different topic, and all of the topics for the shows are drawn from the hat. Anything is fair game. Any behavior can be learned, so that I may then get more. Someone might say something that might be offensive. Primal ideas. Boom. Go. This week on From the Hat, we have Stephen Pond with us again. Content creator, media personality, actor, and all-around good guy. Welcome to the show again, Stephen. It's great to have you back.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Let's see what the hat has in store for us this week.
Wrestle, wrestle.
A quote by Dr. Hannah Fry, which says, "The problem for humans is overriding our instinct to trust our intuition." What does that mean to you, Stephen?
Well, I think fundamentally that goes into the concept of like mind over matter, where often we intellectually can think and can believe something, but our intuition, which is more visceral, I guess, like it's trusting your gut.
Mm-hmm.
Which do you want to actually go with? Do you want to overthink things, or do you want to actually go with what you can't necessarily explain but believe?
Right. That's something that, I mean, I think everyone has that conundrum in their life where they're going, okay, this is I really feel this, but I can't explain why.
Yeah.
And the benefits of both. I mean, I think there are some times where you just you weigh it out and you just got to go with what you know. I think that happens, but I would have to say that, like Dr. Fry here, I think it's brought me in my life significantly more satisfaction, more growth, more personal investment when I go with my gut.
Right.
And I've found that going with my gut is right most of the time. And I don't know why. I can't totally explain, that, but I can definitely say intuition and learning to trust personal intuition has become a valuable characteristic and thing that I'm still working on doing. But
yeah. Well, then what's the difference between intuition and instinct? Because instinct to me feels like that's something that is innate.
Oh, true.
Like animals have their own instincts. We as humans, we do have certain instincts. Intuition is more of a higher level, where you can have an instinct to feed yourself, or you can have an instinct to procreate. But an intuition is much more cerebral in a way, where you have intuitions to do things a certain way,
right,
rather than just do things, or intuition to proceed down a specific path in your life, rather than just live your life, which would be by instinct. So I think, following intuition inherently is a human trait rather than just animalistic instinct. So is there more of a distinction between those two things that we can draw, which would help clarify that quote?
I really like what you said in there in talking about instinct is just living your life, just doing what you feel you need to do. And intuition is taking more control and breaking away from that instinct a little bit. And I think it reminded me of another quote, but of talking about being an agent to act for yourself and to act and not be acted upon. And whenever I think of that, it makes me think of years ago, and I was tubing down a river, just sitting in an inner tube, just floating along. And I think in life, like for us, that's instinct. We just float along. You just do what comes natural. And you take that and you just kind of float along. But you don't have a lot of control. Often are doing okay, but you don't have control. And I think when you start trusting your intuition, you are taking control. You're not being acted upon by the river, but you get an oar. And you're able to direct your path. And you have more control, more say over what's going on in your life. You might take more control emotionally, where something might happen to you and that something might have made you totally angry. Your instinct is to say, "Ugh, I'm angry," and fight or flight. There's an instinct, and you get angry and you get mad at your friend, your coworker, whatever. But intuition is maybe more that, I'm going to take control and I'm going to do what is better for me.
So there we've got instinct is almost inherently emotional, where it's your natural immediate response to a situation.
Right.
Whereas intuition is less emotional, it's more impassioned, where intuition is a thought toward a specific direction rather than just an impulse to react, which is more tied to emotion.
Yeah, impulse.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, though, we get confused. Sometimes when we say go with your gut, we think impulse.
Right.
But I think it is more that intuitive, impulsive, you do things because it's reflex.
Yeah.
It's not that you don't have control. Like reflexes. My kids love the idea that when you can hit your knee and your leg kicks up, they think that's one of the coolest things in the world to be able to see that reflex. Now, that doesn't mean that every time I hit their knee in that exact spot, that their knee kicks up, because you can override a reflex.
Mm-hmm.
You can overcome that by thinking, and you can do,
In the same way you can quash an instinct.
right, and go, maybe I shouldn't do this right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with my gut here.
I think it's interesting where a lot of the time with intuition, it often will contradict instinct, or it may even contradict rational thought. We just had an experience with a friend of ours who was looking for a different place to live, and we found a potential option for them, and this rationally is a weird solution to her specific problem.
Mm-hmm.
It's less than ideal, but her intuition, like, she immediately felt good about it, and
Right.
there was no question in her mind, this is the thing that we should do, where all of us were like, it's not the best, there might be something else out there. But her intuition was, no, this is what we're going to do. This is the best thing. This is going to work out. And often our intuition is what drives us to things working out. If you have a feeling toward doing something in your life, your intuition is spurring you forward with that. It's not like the instinct often, I think, is something that holds us back, where because we've mentioned instinct is tied to emotion, we have an instinctual reaction to things that we are afraid of.
Right.
And if there is something that deeply concerns us, or if there is something that we don't necessarily want to do, our instinct is to avoid that. But intuition spurs us toward growth. So trusting our intuition rather than our instinct, trusting those thoughts that we have that inherently contradict what we naturally would feel about a situation, spurs us toward growth. And that, I think, is what's really valuable about this quote, is that our inherent desire as humans is to grow and to develop and to become masters of our surroundings. And if we trust our instincts, we will often remain stagnant, because we avoid pain and we avoid fear by instinct. But with intuition, we drive forward, and we naturally will propel ourselves toward higher and better places.
Right. Yeah. And that's, you talked about like being the masters of your surroundings. And I think that's definitely that rang for me, just going like instinct is driving you to those basic primal survival things.
Mm-hmm.
Eat, reproduce, interact. We're a social people. We typically crave some level of interaction with others. But those things that bring growth is where you stretch beyond the instinct, where you do something that might be a little uncomfortable. You take a risk. Talking with my kids the other day, and we talked about, like, who was the first person to eat an egg? Like, and to say we ate chicken eggs, right? Like, who said we eat chicken eggs? And, we got into a discussion about, domestication of animals anciently and other things like that. And chickens were probably easier to domesticate, whatever. But who made those choices? And those things are risks.
Yeah.
Eating an egg. If you don't know what it is, you're like, well, okay.
This rock just came out of a chicken butt.
Right. I mean,
and
even
it's filled with snot.
But those risks that we take, and it's the risk taking that is the valuable thing. And sometimes it pays off and sometimes it doesn't. But it's that drive to kind of take control.
So question.
Yeah.
Can intuition be learned? I would argue instinct is natural. Instinct is what you were born with.
Right.
Can you learn intuition? Can you increase your propensity toward accurate intuition?
I think so. And it comes from, I think you can see people in this world that do that have learned it. And it comes from experience, and it comes from recognizing the actual choice. Again, I think I think that's the difference also between instinct and intuition, is that instinct, it's not really a choice. You just do it naturally. It's just something, there's no, it's just, oh, I'm just there. I'm doing it. Intuition is the actual choice. And as you recognize that choice and you can go, oh, you know what? This worked out before. And you've got to look through past and history. And I mean, it's how we learn. This worked out before. Oh, I wonder if I tried this. And, you know, you change a little bit. You change what you do or however. And you go, But it's in the recognizing and making conscious choices that it becomes reinforced. Oh, I'll do that. Oh, I won't do that. You know, I just touched the hot stove. Mistake. And that starts shaping your intuition. Now, that said, in knowing I shouldn't touch the stove, like, I've got a reason for that. I can go, I burned myself. I'm not going to do that again. Sometimes with our intuition, we're talking about like trusting your gut. We don't always have reasons for.
Yeah.
But I think we always look back on our history and look back on what we have done and how things have worked out in the past that shapes our gut feeling and what we do.
Well, I love what you said there with intuition is recognizing the actual choice, where I think with instinct, oftentimes we boil down a decision to, this is a thing I'm afraid of, and therefore I won't do it. Or this is something that will make me uncomfortable, and so instinctively I want to avoid that. Whereas with intuition, recognizing the actual choice that is being made is, this is something that will develop me personally versus this is something that will cause me to remain stagnant. And so our intuition is what allows us to see this is an opportunity for personal growth. And it may not be what I logically think of as something that would be a desirable thing, but intuitively, I recognize there's opportunity there. So your intuition drives you to make the actual choice of seeking opportunity rather than stagnation.
Right. It's within that pattern and that process that we, in finding growth and finding that success and that, I guess, satisfaction that comes through the growth is where the pain or the discomfort that we go through becomes, oh, that's okay. It's okay to experience discomfort. It's okay to experience fear, because growth inherently is going to cause discomfort in some way. And us adapting to it and overcoming it is where we become stronger, smarter, more accomplished, you know, whatever the improvement that, you know, maybe we were desiring, or sometimes improvement that we didn't see coming. But that idea of overcoming fear, we do. We want to be safe. We want to be comfortable. You know, we want those things. But sometimes there's a quote coming to my mind by William Burnham that said, the most drastic and usually the most effective remedy for fear is direct action. And that's where like that instinct is like, avoid this. But sometimes our gut says, you know what? It's okay. Yeah. And we're going to be all right. We can test this. Let's trust that. And the more you trust that in your life, and back to your idea of like, can you learn trusting your gut? And absolutely. Because the more you do it, you know people in your life that are like that, that are risk takers, because they've seen it pay off. And so they are more and more willing to go through what they need to get to where they want to be.
Yeah.
And the greatest risk takers in the world have also had the greatest failures, but they move on because of those. They're like, wow, it doesn't faze them as much.
Right.
Because they've come to understand the relationship between growth and overcoming fear. That's where it absolutely is I believe a learned thing. Now, do people have things that they're inherently maybe gifted with? And yeah, some people are more likely to maybe take risks and things like that. But I believe any behavior can be learned. Personally, being a behaviorist as I was, and lots of study in that. But I believe behavior can be modified, behavior can be changed, behavior can be learned. And especially even looking through my life and experiences I've had, so many times I've gone, oh, I thought this, I didn't go with that, but it turns out I was right. Or just yesterday, I was talking to my daughter. We were driving. We were looking out at the sky, and there were some really cool clouds way off in the horizon. And she said, all the kids were like, wow, those are neat clouds. And my oldest said, well, what kind are those? What kind of clouds are those? And I said, oh, well, those are cumulus clouds. Being that I remember my 5th grade science classes. And I was like, those are cumulus clouds. And my oldest daughter said, oh, that's what I thought, but I didn't want to say it. And that's something I have heard from my eldest over and over again. And I'm constantly trying to say it. Say it. If that's what you thought, say it. Because that's your gut going, but your fear of being uncomfortable or of being wrong overpowers, so that instinct overpowers your intuition of going, you know what? I feel this is right.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I'm trying to teach my daughter. Just say it. Because if you're wrong and we address it. But if you're right, it starts that pattern of momentum, with that. Oh, I've got that. I was right. And that's where it starts building confidence. It starts building the idea that taking risks are okay. And so just on a simple idea yesterday, talking about cumulus clouds that were off in the horizon, the idea of trust your gut comes to the forefront of our conversation. And that's, again, the more you do that, the more you consciously do it.
Right.
It does. Now, I will say things do become habit.
Yeah, for sure.
And so you might not be as consciously making that decision, but in the learning process, when you first start doing it, it's a conscious choice. And you do have to okay, I'm making this choice. Boom, go. Now, habit does become behavior, and behavior just becomes natural later, but it is a learned process. Absolutely.
So as we gain experience in recognizing and consciously choosing to act against our instincts, we can increase our ability to follow intuition.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's really interesting when people in just everyday life say, hey, trust your instincts on something. Through this conversation, I think what people are really meaning is trust your intuition.
In this semantic framework.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So if someone says trust your instincts, they're not saying trust your inherent primal desire for the bottom tier of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Because that's what instincts want you to do.
Right.
But intuition is driving you up that pyramid toward the self-actualization. It's two very necessary drives, but intuition brings you higher than instinct can.
Yeah.
No one will have an instinct to climb to the top of a mountain, but you can have intuition.
No, that's unsafe. That's dangerous.
Exactly. But you may have a feeling. You may have an intuition that tells you, I want to climb that mountain. I want to get to the top of that.
I want to see what's there. Yeah, and it's in that process that the reward, the payoff happens.
Exactly.
Did you ever see the movie from 2013, The Croods?
I have not, actually.
The Croods, it's a caveman movie. They're
Right.
Neanderthals. Okay, they're caveman. And in the process of the movie, they actually meet a Homo sapien, the next level.
Yeah.
And they have lived their lives with the idea of new things are bad.
Right.
We're here to survive.
Avoidance of pain.
Avoidance of pain. Just pure survival.
Yeah.
They lived in the cave. At night, they put a rock in front of it, and new is bad. And the whole idea of the movie is that when they meet this Homo sapien who has this, ability to think and process and is taking risks, they see the growth that comes through that. I'm trying to remember the quote.
We always accept paraphrases here.
I'm going to have to Google it. We're going to Google Crude's quotes.
That sounds dangerous.
Right?
Crude quotes.
Yeah, crude quotes.
Hmm.
Actually, one of the whole points within this movie is like Nicolas Cage, Neanderthal dad, has never had an original idea.
Uh-huh.
He just goes off instinct. He just goes off what they've done in the past. And so he tries to compete with this young, hip Homo sapien that his daughter is infatuated with. And everyone likes because he's a really great guy. And his name is actually Guy. And so Nicolas Cage is like striving to have an idea. And the whole point at the end of the movie, he's having this struggle. And they're going towards the light to tomorrow because, the world is coming, apocalyptic type,
Sure.
earthquakes and lava and, all that stuff. The whole point of the movie is to break away from those instinctive patterns, take those risks, go outside of your comfort zone, trust the risk is going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Instinct, it keeps us at that base level, like you said, but being able to recognize the benefit of our intuition and to go, our curiosity, to reach out beyond the known, to step into that unknown has massive payouts. That's why it's so important to learn to trust your gut.
Mm-hmm.
With anything talking about trust, learning to trust yourself, I think, is a valuable thing because it brings confidence. It brings more of that empowerment, that self-actualization, that self-empowering, I can do it. It gives you the knowledge that you are able to accomplish things, that you are an agent for yourself. You can do things. You can take control.
Well, I'm reminded of an experience I had recently. We were going on a hike up in the mountains with me and my wife and her family. And on this trail, there were some bikers as well that were biking up to the peak of this mountain.
Yeah.
And my brother-in-law turns and says, why would you do that? That just sounds painful and terrible. And like, why would anyone have the desire to bike uphill for miles to get to the top of a mountain when you can like go up a chairlift with a bike and get to the top of the mountain and then have the fun time and ride down?
Right.
Like, why would anyone want to go up? That caused me to think, and I think it ties exactly into what we've been talking about here, where the biking up a mountain, or in my case, I've run multiple marathons. I'm training for another half marathon right now. And when I first started training, running sucks.
Yes.
Like running it's the worst. It's painful and it takes a long time and you're tired and sore afterward and it just isn't fun. But in the effort to accomplish these large goals of biking up a mountain or completing a marathon, you gain the knowledge in yourself that you can accomplish difficult things.
Right.
And that knowledge that you as a person can do what you set your mind to, that is valuable knowledge.
Yeah.
And I think that can only be gained by following your intuition and acknowledging that the things that you're trying to do are difficult, but also knowing that the goal that you're going toward is worth every ounce of pain that you experience in chasing after it.
Right. Let's step back to caveman times again, just because I'm going to keep this metaphor going.
Okay.
But I'm going to do a mixed metaphor here.
A malaphor.
That idea of like riding up a hill, on a bike. I love it. I love biking. I love going up hills. And I love that satisfaction of going, I have conquered this hill, this awful thing. And yes, coming down is glorious. But honestly, going down it's not the payoff. The payoff is getting to the top.
Yeah.
With anything, with sports, I spent many years playing sports. I spent many years coaching sports. And still, practice sucks. Or let's take any skill. I was in band growing up. Practice sucks.
Practice sucks.
In any academic thing, math, reading, practice sucks. It sucks. It's not fun.
Mm-hmm.
What is fun in sports is coming to game day and you play. And all that practice the skills and the things that you learn pay off.
Yeah.
Here's where we go back to the caveman. We talk about survival, primal ideas.
Instinct. Yeah.
The caveman that practiced and went through some of that pain, that discomfort, to either run, and they could run faster, or run to get food. You can either run away from a predator or run to get something. I'm sure it's a natural thing. It's just something you do. You just do. But there's a point where someone went, hey, what if I did this not in a real life situation? And they practiced throwing a spear or a rock or something, and they got better at it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they could use the skill through practice, and they became more successful. They were able to have more food. Who's the first person to go, hey, I'm going to take this seed and plant it? Yeah. And you have the whole agricultural, you go from wanderers and hunter-gatherers to an agricultural lifestyle. I mean, these risks, these thoughts, we go,
That would have taken intuition. Mm-hmm.
That would have taken intuition. And to realize that, planting, oh my goodness, planting takes the whole idea of a delayed gratification.
Yeah.
Because you're going to take food that you would already have eaten, and you put it into the ground, and you wait.
Bury it. That's where you
for
put
it to
dead
sprout.
Things.
Right.
Yeah.
To sprout more food. That idea of that delayed gratification is massive when it comes to intuition and the idea of learning to wait. The wait is no fun, and the wait is uncomfortable. The wait is something that's not natural. Our instincts are you survive, you get what you need, and you do that. I mean, if nobody in the history of mankind ever went, I'm going to take this food, this grain that we eat and sustains us, and I'm going to put it in the ground, and I'm going to wait. And I'm going to cultivate it so that I may then get more. That's a complex idea.
Mm-hmm.
There's a quote by Neil A. Maxwell that says, never give up what you want most for what you want today.
That is the one that was on our fridge growing up.
There it is. So many things in life are like that. Our intuition, our instinct wants immediate. It wants immediate payoff. It wants us to be safe. It wants us to be comfortable. It wants us to be free from fear and discomfort.
Homeostatic.
Yes. Our intuition drives us, if we let it, drives us to delay that gratification, or to delay the comfort, or to delay whatever for what we really want. What do you really, what's your long-term goal? It plays as a long game instead of the short. Mm-hmm. That is the value of trusting your gut. It might not be something that's rational. You go, oh yeah, this totally makes sense. But you have a trust that it will pay off, and you have a willingness to go through whatever it takes to get to there.
That, I think, is a very valuable point. When you follow your intuition and you follow that drive to go and do and create and become, it's not necessarily the intuition itself that ensures that you will go and do and create and become, but it's the fact that you have made this decision to do this thing according to the feeling that you had, and because you have made that decision, you work toward it.
Right.
And so whatever does occur, you will be better for it. The value of following your intuition is not in the intuition itself, it's in the work that is required to accomplish what you've set out to do. That's where the growth happens. And I think that's really valuable to consider, where instinct makes us, when we follow instinct, we sometimes do have to do hard things, like chase after a gazelle with a spear. That would be difficult, but that is instinct because you need food. However, the intuition of crafting that spear is difficult, and making and perfecting the tools that you use to follow and be able to fulfill those basic instincts are difficult as well. And following your intuition is what makes those difficult things worth it. No matter what the intuition says you do, as you work toward fulfilling that, you grow. Full stop.
Yes, it's the idea of living deliberately. of not being so controlled by outside sources. You have taken responsibility of yourself.
Yeah.
And of your actions. Every action you make is going to be your choice, not just something that you go, oh, huh. It's not going to be a reflex. It's not going to be just a response.
Right.
But it's going to be your choice. And that's been something that I think is valuable beyond just this idea of like survival and even like interpersonal relationships. We have the ability to choose.
Yeah.
And we can't always control what happens to us, but we can control how we respond to the situations we are placed in. Whether, with someone might say something that might be offensive to you, which means you choose it to be offensive because it's your choice. And that, I think, is a valuable thing for me to realize that I have the power to make those choices. I have the power to control myself. There's a quote by Western colonizer Brigham Young that says, "A man is a fool who takes offense when no offense is intended. But a man is a greater fool who takes offense when it is intended." And to me, that means that if no offense is intended and I'm taking offense, like I'm a total idiot because like they didn't mean it, I'm taking offense. Oops, I'm stupid. But the greater fool is the one where you're trying to offend me, and then I go, you know what? I'm going to empower you so much that I'm going to let you control me. I'm going to let you make that choice for me, that you're trying to offend me, and I'm going to be offended. And that's to be deliberate in all of your choices, because you know what? It's absolutely reflex. It's absolutely instinct. If someone does something that you're offended, it's total reflex to just get angry.
Yeah.
But to be deliberate about your choices and about your actions, you can make the choice to go, you know what? I won't be baited. And we live in a society where people are out on the interwebs, on the Facebooks and the Instagrams and all the Twitterverses, that people are trolling people because they like the reaction. And it's empowering. I mean, you look at two little siblings, let's take a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old, and they like to prod and poke each other and annoy each other because that's empowering. Because those children don't quite get that, like, they're living off instinct. They're living off this, like, basic, oh, they're bugging me, I'm going to smack them or yell or do something. In a functional, healthy society, we don't let that happen. And typically when someone doesn't get the payoff for a behavior that they are expressing when they're trying to offend someone or to get something, that behavior of trying to offend actually decreases. And so in an actual well-working society where we are empowered and we are making our own choices and be deliberate with our choices, it's much more harmonious because we are choosing our reactions. I kind of tangented a little bit, strayed from the idea that we had before, but I think it comes down to even that personal side where you have the choice to choose how you're going to react to whatever situation comes in, and you're not going to place the blame or empower outside sources to make your mind up for you. That's, I think, the gist of what we've been talking about, is we're not going to let, this quote is not, you're not going to let outside sources dictate your outcomes.
And not even, you're not going to allow internal sources pull you away from things that you want more.
Right. There's so much empowerment that comes through the deliberate idea of making a choice, on going with your gut and learning that is a choice.
Yeah.
I'm going to stretch myself. I'm going to go into a place that's a little uncomfortable. I'm going to take a risk. But to trust yourself enough, that's a very empowering place to be at. It's a very powering position.
Yeah, there is power in choice, inherent in choice.
I think you summarized it the best. My intuition is telling me that we have come to a close of this episode today. Thank you, Stephen, for being here and helping us understand this great quote. Again, the quote being, "The problem for humans is overriding our instinct to trust our intuition," by Dr. Hannah Fry. So that's the end of our episode today for From the Hat. My intuition is telling you to go down and to subscribe to this podcast, to like our things. We're on Instagram. We're on YouTube. Find us. Follow Steven, the Cosmere at Rafo on the YouTubes and Instagrams and TikToks and all of the social medias. And we will see you the next time when we find out what we get from the hat. Testing. 1, 2, 3.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.